So, welcome to Leadership Within, the moment for leaders to reflect on their human experience of leadership. I'm Vanessa May, and I'm joined by
myself, TK, also known as Tomasz.
Hello, Tomasz. How are you doing today?
I am actually doing quite well as we're recording further in the week, if I can divulge the fact that it's Friday, so it's always a happy day. I've had a bit of a busy week, so I'm really looking forward to the weekend. And also this conversation.
Yeah, likewise. I've just had my second cup of coffee, which is rare for me.
Brilliant.
So I'm kind of bringing that kind of fire, I think.
Oh, yes, I can certainly hear it.
Yeah, and so let's jump straight in and think about what it is that we wanted to talk about, which for me was around what inspires you as a leader. And this I did an exercise yesterday with a group, and we asked this very question. And I found it fascinating what they came up with about, people that had inspired them and what were the particular human qualities that they brought. So not the title or the strategy or how they did things, but actually the qualities that they brought. And it's got me really thinking about what inspires or who inspires me at the moment. And if I was to answer that question, I have just jumped into redoing my yoga teacher training. And the teacher, she inspires me. And she, I feel a little bit like in awe, I think is the right word for it. So I was thinking about, well, what are the qualities that she brings that really inspire me? And I wrote a list, and they are, she is direct, she's clear, she's open, she's really boundaried, she sees everything, and she's empathic, but not to the point that, like she's over there in your stuff. She's confident, she's strong, and she's honest. So what I mean by honest is, she knows she's got stuff in her own world to deal with that she just isn't going to do it. Like she's just not going to make that choice. She knows it's all about discipline, and it's like, no, do you know what? I'm not going to do that. And I love that kind of realism with her. So she makes me well, actually, she doesn't make me feel, I feel safe in her company because it's like she gives out this really clear bat signal. And, I know where I stand. And so I was wondering if I was to ask you that question, TK, what would you say? Who inspires you, and what are some of those qualities that inspire you?
It's a bit on the spot. I haven't been thinking about the person when we've been sharing notes for this podcast. But as you've asked the question, I'm not saying I panicked a bit, but I started searching throughout my life, and searching throughout, whoever it is. And I'll go with the first person that actually came to mind. And it isn't someone that, I've met on my journey. In fact, it's a fictional character, if I may use it.
Of course.
And, what I found is not necessarily a tangent. There's obviously not obviously, but there's a wonderful TV show that you might have been exposed to called The West Wing. And people that are fans of it are called the Wingnuts. And I don't know if there are any conventions. I didn't know that that's the case, but sometimes you see people actually displaying this affiliation with this show. And the main character is President Jeb Bartlett. And whenever I want to emotionally cleanse myself and feel something strong, there's a couple of episodes that I watch, and one of them is called The Two Cathedrals. I'm sure that, if any of you listening remember that episode, it's very emotional and shows a lot of the quality of leadership. I think Aaron Sorkin and his writing style and dramatic one is really prevalent there. So what it is it's difficult to describe, but it shows the qualities of a leader really going through a difficult time where his friend just dies in an accident. He is about to make a very important decision about his career. He's, just had to reveal that he has multiple sclerosis, obviously a very serious health condition, and yet he decided to run for another term as president. And the wonderful things that I've seen in the person, not only in this episode, wonderful Martin Sheen playing masterfully the president, is, I think, a lot of care, a lot of wisdom, very clear values, a lot of resilience and courage and strength. And I think, seeing the journey throughout this episode always makes, well, not always, but quite often makes me break down and, appreciate what a person can go through and how much resilience it takes. And yet it is accessible. So, a fictional character, but still someone.
I love that. And I'm wondering, what of those qualities are in you?
It's a bit of a difficult question, and it's because if you admire someone, I don't know about you, Vanessa, and I think I would love for you to share what you see in the mirror when you look at your wonderful yoga teacher. Well, I guess I might be attracted to leaders, and there's a couple of other leaders. Some of them are fictional. It's very rare to see a combination like this. What attracts me is, I guess, the strength, but it's not a strength of muscles, a strength of determination, although it's there, but the strength of wisdom and values, and something that it's plain for everyone to see. Also, I think the grounded nature in the values that he has. Well, some attribute that this TV show actually got Obama elected, to show that politicians can have this wisdom and strength about them. Can I see this within myself? There are moments where I can. But I think this is why I've mentioned this episode, because this is an arc of challenge, a journey that this particular protagonist throughout this wonderful episode, which I'm obviously going to link a YouTube video on the podcast notes, goes through. And one would say that I find it sometimes hard to exhibit this, even if maybe, not bragging about it. There are moments when people see it in me. What about yourself, Vanessa? What do you see in yourself when you look at the mirror of the yoga teacher?
Yeah, and before I jump there, I kind of want to say I absolutely see that in you, and I experience that in you.
Oh, thank you.
I can hear you go, oh, thank you.
Well,
these things are hard to
It's difficult
accept.
to see within yourself in a mirror, right? Sometimes others are your mirror, aren't they?
Yeah, totally. So in my yoga teacher, I think I do have that quality of clarity and directness in me. And I do have I do have a confidence in me at times, and I would say I'm really open, and I think I'm really honest. And what I also see in her is her edge, and she really helped me really see that in me, because I was thinking, I can't remember the conversation, but essentially she was talking about something, and she was being super hard on herself. And I thought, oh God, I do that. And I can't figure out why she is so hard on herself. And one of the things that I notice people keep saying to me is, God, Vanessa, you're really hard on yourself. and so she also mirrors a shadow for me. But I had this conversation with her where I said to her, oh my God, you're so assertive. I'm not that assertive. And yet I'm frustrated with myself that I am holding myself back from that assertion. So I feel like she represents this quality of clear bat signal. Do this, don't do that. Here's where we're going. We're not going to do that right now. If you're thinking this, then stop. She's very direct, directive at times, but she's picking up on the subtlety in the room, and she's taking charge of it. So she's feeling like in a pose that's really difficult, like, oh, okay, I can see people wobbling. They're probably really in their heads, and she speaks straight to it. You may well be thinking, you may well be looking at somebody else right now. Stop. This is a chance for you to get in your own experience and be with yourself. And I absolutely adore that, because I think so often, we're looking outside at moments of difficulty, and so she's fierce, and I feel I have that fierceness in me, and my frustration with myself is sometimes I'm holding that back, particularly when I'm not sure of my place, or I'm playing this narrative of like, who are you? You're not a yoga teacher. You're not a this. So it's almost like I downplay my skills and ability to fit in. And I really hate that I do that. Can't believe I said that out loud on here, but I do. I really do not like that I have a habit of doing that in order to fit in and belong.
But it's only natural, Vanessa. I think many of us, myself included, have this natural impulse to belong. And it's very interesting, just wanted to maybe acknowledge something I've noticed when you were saying that. I've noticed that you've used a different tone of voice when you were assertive and you were speaking as her. Right? It's
Ooh.
interesting how, yeah, you listen to it when we listen to the recording, and I would definitely would like to ask our listeners to maybe rewind a minute or two to hear Vanessa actually talking with this wonderful clarity, but also directly at the problem, right? It's not something I often hear from you, but it's also maybe a sign that you're clearly capable of that. Like possibly I'm capable of the qualities I admire. And yet, somehow, as you say, for instance, someone told me, "Oh, TK, you need to be more energetic. You're speaking too slowly," and so on, right? Where this actually is the voice of this wise protagonist, Jeb Bartlett, the president of the US in the show. He speaks like that. So it's interesting, when we channel this energy, how it manifests.
I love that. Well, so that makes me think about how we can practically use this. Cause I mean, this is
Mm-hmm.
very fascinating, isn't it? And kind of, it's not navel gazing, but there's a curiosity here.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, okay, so if someone's listening to this, how could they actually practically use it? And I think you've just led us there, by this idea that, we can embody these qualities, and we can find our inner. So I can find my inner Lucy,
Mm-hmm.
and step into that, and you can find your inner Jed and step into that, and
The
our
interesting
listeners
thing
can
is,
equally find
indeed,
theirs.
huh, they
Go
absolutely
on,
can.
you
And
were saying.
hopefully, maybe some of it is us, right? There's the inner TK and inner Vanessa
Exactly.
that some of our listeners want to embody. But do you know what? You don't have to embody the whole person, I think. The interesting thing is there might be a quality that you admire that you need
Yes.
at this particular time that someone has in abundance, even though you might not enjoy the person or agree with them. I'll use a controversial example. For instance, if you want to feel confident, you can imagine Donald Trump. I don't think
I
he
knew
lacks
you were going to
confidence at
pick
all,
him.
right? I know. Sorry about that. But in fact,
He is a
he
fascinating
epitomizes
one,
it.
isn't he?
He is.
Because I find with him, I don't know if you find this, but I find out like when
Mm.
he talks, it's
He's
like
the
talking to
president
your
of.
average Joe. Well, what I was thinking was this, or well,
Mm.
what we really wanted. It's not what I would have traditionally thought a person in authority would speak like.
Well, that's an interesting one. I think, the real question is this how he normally speaks? I think, he does. I think I'm not analyzing him particularly. What I can see, however, is that he is very grounded in the way he is. He really believes that this is the most optimal himself. I have to watch The Apprentice movie about him and his relationship with his mentor and so on. Wonderfully played, actually, and I've seen snippets, but I have to catch it up. That said, he actually believes in this stance, and I think it shows.
Mm.
So if you believe that you can manifest not necessarily this particular stance, but whatever you want to see in terms of values and qualities, yeah, I think absolutely believing that you have it. and I think, yourself and our listeners do, we all have a part, will help.
Yeah, and that came up yesterday in our conversations about
Mm.
self-belief being a really important um, part of leadership. Like really being able to believe, whether it's in a vision, an inspiration in yourself, but that ability to lean into optimism, hope, whatever you want to call it, and create, see a possibility, and then be willing to stand in it.
It's a difficult one. Okay, so I think when you I think on topic of this wonderful current president of these US, the self belief can unfortunately also lead you astray if we have too much. Now, the difficulty that I, for instance, face quite often is self belief that I am okay in being wrong. Right. I think, I'm trying to reach it, but in the modern world of, everyone or a lot of people actually standing their ground and publishing God knows what on LinkedIn, it's difficult to say, hey, I'm okay in being wrong or I'm okay in failing. That's perfectly fine. And here it is.
Yeah. And do you know what? So many people yesterday said that is so easy to say and so hard to
Mhm.
do. Isn't it? It's the standard thing. We all need to be, agile, learning, failing, growing. And I think we've even said this before, but it was interesting to have a group say that back. You're like, oh yeah, I'm great when other people like I can. Someone said I can say things to my, friends or whatever, but actually, can I apply it to myself? It's that
Well,
humility,
that's the
isn't
thing,
it?
right? Yeah, and also when we're applying it a bit too much, it diminishes
Yes,
our, self appraisal, and we feel drained. And at least I do, right? When I push it too much, feel, a bit unsure. And yet, if I channel the inner confidence, we've talked about what it can get to. So being able to balance it, the humility versus confidence and assertiveness, it's always an edge. It's always
mm,
teetering on the fence, and that's maybe the beauty of it, right? But also, one would say that within ourselves, we can manifest whatever value we have, but the environment and the people we're showing it to can have a different reaction. It's always a
exactly.
complex adaptive system, and it's not just us. We're not just alone.
Yeah. And I think that whole thing of like, how much am I being adaptive and is that serving me versus actually I'm holding myself back? So how much am I sensing and responding to the environment versus how much am I adapting, shape shifting to stay safe? So that makes me wonder
Hmm.
if you were to pick one of the qualities that you described that would stretch you and you would love to lean into, which one would you pick? I love that.
Hmm. No, because well, the I haven't mentioned the quality that would really stretch. Well, okay, so all of these qualities in the level presented by a fictional character I described would obviously stretch me, but I think how would I? I think sometimes the level of empathy and really being able to be with another person um, can stretch me. And I'm quite empathetic, but I'm not someone what I would call myself an empath. And I know these wonderful people, and it's just like, how do I find it within myself? You can pretend for a while, you can emulate it, but it takes a lot of energy. And I always admire people that have it naturally, although I understand that it comes with a shadow.
Mm. And what would that give you if you were able to dial that one up
Oh,
in your leadership? What would it give you?
I think the genuine connection would be even more strengthened. And, we've talked about it before. We started recording about how many people would come to your book launch or any other occasion, and you would have more, or I would have more. Then again, the real question is it what matters? Is it what you use or I use to bring the value to the world? And if sometimes we have an edge, that's fine. Is it more important to enhance the values that we're strong in, to be even stronger, that would give more value to the environment, help you realize your mission in life? Or is it the thing that we should work on, the stretch part, the edge that we have, right? What is it that we should invest our energy in? I don't have an answer. It's a difficult one, I think. But you've asked about the stretch, and yeah, it is a stretch, as you've heard by my size.
Thank you.
How about yourself, Vanessa? What is it that brings, what this brings for you?
So I think I'm torn a little bit. I want to go direct. I'm also torn because I think boundaried would be really helpful for me, but I think direct or assertive, if I could really lean into that. And maybe actually, I think I probably want to do some of the opposite of you. Like I want to dial down some of the empathy because sometimes that's not overly helpful for me. So my awareness is that I can say things very direct. Like I said it to a client the other day. I said something. I said, "It seems X," and they just burst into tears. It's like, wow, okay. And then I'm like, okay, so what's here? And just the staying with. I find it easy to do one-on-one, but when I'm in a group, it's different. Something is showing up for me in a group dynamic that doesn't show up one-on-one, where I am less direct. I'm holding that back. And I think, if I think about, well, I've put my neck on the line and said I want to teach yoga for a bit. I'm really struggling with what's the identity of myself as a yoga teacher, because I can't see it at all. I can't see how it fits into my life. I've got no clue why I've suddenly put myself on the line and said, I'm going to do this thing. So I feel like I'm wanting to, I feel like that it's almost like that's a vehicle for me to work this muscle of being direct and clear. And I can hear it in my tone as I say it.
Yes.
And so maybe that's the only reason that I'm doing it, is to claim that inner authority. Maybe it's that, actually. Gosh, that's been helpful.
Thank you for sharing that, Vanessa, right? Yeah, I think the interesting thing that I wanted to acknowledge is how difficult is it to discover what is it that is pulling us somewhere. And I think the beauty of it, and when I work with my clients, I always have this mantra of like, what's the life you want to live? It's all about making the decision.
Yeah.
And then, everything else can follow. And if somehow you feel pulled or dragged away or afraid, it's just maybe helpful to understand why. Sometimes you might not want to know it. It's, the answer can be behind the veil. But I think it's very helpful to reflect a bit, to uncover it, because it will show you so much about yourself.
Absolutely. So if we were to summarize, we've talked about leadership by inspiration, really, and starting with the self, like really thinking about who inspires me and what qualities do they have, and what of that's in me versus what do I, want to stretch into. I think that the point that we've got here is that leadership really isn't about being perfect, but it is about being conscious and making intentional choices. And, maybe we're inviting you into this place of what qualities are you already showing and what would you like to stretch into, and really practicing that.
Absolutely. And even if you didn't have anyone in your life or know someone that had these qualities, they are within you, because there is something that pulls you there. It's just waiting to be discovered.
So thank you for listening, and until next time, have an amazing week ahead.